What's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and I'm always scouring the internet for new games, new experiences for us to share together. Absolutely, and I'm trying to keep the hype alive. I'm trying to have a little bit of enthusiasm, but sometimes we got to do a little bit more of a tragic video. Hopefully, there's still some magic here with these games. That's the hope, to play these games one last time, or give them a shot. Maybe you didn't know about them. Maybe these are hidden gems. But overall, maybe they're just a little too niche. Regardless, whatever the reason, these games don't have a mass audience, really barely have any audience, sometimes not any at all. So these are free-to-play games that nobody plays. They're new games. I try to do this list every year, so these are games that I haven't mentioned on a list previously. So pretty much within the last year that these games have came out. Some are newer, some are older, but for the most part, yeah, they're new games that are free-to-play that are pretty decent. Those who actually have played them, but yeah, most people totally don't even know these games exist or have just moved on. Yeah, a little bit sad, but once again, let's try to keep the hype alive. Alright, so the first game on our list here, for games that nobody plays, is going to be Conquerors Blade, which has about 2,000-ish players, which is pretty much the most out of, I think, all the games on this list. Conquerors Blade kind of, I think, needs a lot more because it is specifically a big team battle game. If this was a fighting game with 2,000 players, that's actually really, really good. But Conquerors Blade is big team battle. Now, it's supposed to be an MMO, that's how it's proclaimed, but really, it's kind of not. There is some metamap features. They do have guilds or clans or whatever it's called. Conquerors Blade is really mostly like you jump into a map, and I think it's like 16 versus 16, and it's going to feel kind of Dynasty Warriors-ish. It's going to be really similar to a game I had on my last year's list called Tiger Knight Empire War. So it's going to be basically you controlling a little platoon or legion or just like a little mini army with 16 other players as you run around, and it's sort of like a pseudo strategy / action combat game. It's pretty interesting. It's got some interesting mechanics, but overall, I think that it might just be a little bit of a case of false advertisement that has turned a lot of people away. But if you go into it thinking it's going to be kind of World of Tanksy, a little bit more slower paced versus, like For Honor with, as an MMO, then I think you can actually have a lot of fun. And I do consider this the superior to Tiger Knight Empire War, which again made last year's list. So give Conquerors Blade a shot. Number 9 on my list here is going to be Minion Masters. And I really debated putting this on the list because it actually has over 1,000 players consistently. And it is a 1v1 game, so similar to fighting games, you don't need that many players online. So if you want to fight me and put something else on this list here, then absolutely, I totally get you. But Minion Masters is a newish game that is highly, highly polished, but at the same time, it is a type of game that we do expect to be very popular. There's a couple other games that I really liked, such as Red Tides, which is the similar sort of lane defense and offense, and I think there's what is it? It just came out. It's like an Area 51 game. They Can't Stop All of Us is also similar. But anyways, Minion Masters is basically a Clash Royale-ish clone. I mean, it's very, very Clash Royale. It's got some differences, and it has more emphasis on kind of spamming lots of units. Maybe more focus on the RTS versus rock, paper, scissory card game mechanics that kind of Clash Royale is known for. So Minion Masters, it's a bit different, and it is definitely worth checking out. And people are playing it, 1,000 players, over 1,000 players with a 1v1 game. I totally get it. It's just, I expected more, especially since this publisher, this developer is a little bit more known. They have done a couple of other games, niche games, hyper-focused games, but this is like a franchise in a world that they're kind of building. So you are going to see a lot of units, and the graphics kind of recite. It's a little bit of an asset flip, but Minion Masters, I expected it to do a little bit better, so we'll see. Maybe it's just going to stick here, maybe it's going to stay here, maybe it knows its niche, maybe it doesn't belong on this list. You guys let me know. Next up, we have Iron Sight, and my review for this game, which I actually did a full review for it, was basically glowing the entire time. Unlocking was relatively fair. The game looked and felt basically like a free-to-play Call of Duty, and not like in a derogatory way. It felt like a AAA Call of Duty, maybe from a few years ago, possibly, but it felt like a AAA Call of Duty without the campaign and everything, but multiplayer. It was like kind of advanced war-ish. There were some really cool gadgets. I really liked the kill streaks, and the map design felt pretty solid. All in all, like, I had a really good time with Iron Sight, and I thought this was going to be sort of like a spearhead for a resurgence for the AAA free-to-play games. I remember back in the day, Blacklight Retribution, games like Hawken, stuff like that, Tribes Ascend. I thought this was sort of like, oh man, we're coming back, free-to-play AAA, let's do it. But Ironsight instantaneously died. It never launched on Steam. They never did any big events. They got a bunch of YouTubers like me to partner up and do videos, and then that was it. They kind of gave up on it. I don't know why. A lot of money was put into this game initially, and then it was entirely dropped. But it was a solid freaking game. Maybe, I guess they didn't service us as a games as a service, but if you could just jump in, especially if you play with some friends, this is like, I don't know, it's my pick for first-person shooter. That's what I gotta say. And next, Spellbreak. Spellbreak probably, I don't know, should it be on this list? Debatable, but basically Spellbreak is a game that a lot of people aren't talking about when maybe they should. Now, I think Spellbreak actually has an audience, but they launched on Steam, sort of, for their beta testing, and then they're like, no, we're gonna go to Epic Games. And that worked out for Dauntless. And then Dauntless, was really heavily promoting itself. Dauntless also launched on consoles, and that completely saved Dauntless. Spellbreak, is it going to do a cross-platform thing? I don't know. I don't know if it even could, really, the style of game it is. But Spellbreak's, the hype and everything died really quick. Like, my videos got a lot of views. A lot of people were talking about it at first when they, launched the trailers. And then Epic Game Store. And then... that's pretty much it. But Spellbreak is a super fun game. I really do enjoy it. I think there is some balancing issues overall, and of course the performance, and it's actually still like, it's not fully released, I believe. Like it's still a ways away from being really polished. But that's, that's a problem. That's an issue. That's why Fortnite did so great, and then PUBG kind of trailed behind, and a lot of these battle royales, they don't perform that great, and Spellbreak, the type of game that it is, there's some issues with it competitively, so they need to pick. Are they going to be a competitive esport, or are they going to be a for fun, very silly game? Because I think they're kind of lost in between, but it's cool. Mixing and maxing out magic and crazy spells and things. It's a neat game. It looks gorgeous, but when you actually play it, I don't know if it has the sticking power that it really needs. And next up, we have Maelstrom, which is going to be sort of like a pirate or sailing style battle royale. And it reminds me actually of a lot of party games. There's in fact, I actually own a party game that is just like this, except incredibly minimalized. If we had a battle royale Sea of Thieves, like if there was a battle royale Sea of Thieves game mode, that shit would be hype, like 4 squads, like 4 players per ship, just like 50 or 60 players all throughout, like, running around islands and a little sea or inlet or something. That would be bonkers, right? But this game, because of the camera angle, because of how minimalistic it looks, sure, it's free to play, and you could jump in and have a time, but I think people are really hungry for games, seemingly like Spellbreak. At least we saw with the virality of that initially. Games like Spellbreak or Fortnite, or games that are just these really big spectacles, and I think this game has just always been under the radar. Overall, but at the same time, it kind of defines what makes free-to-play games really cool. It's quick download, jump in, totally free, you can have fun, and play it almost like a party game, right? You have a bunch of friends, maybe across the country, across the world, which is why I love covering these style games, and you just jump in and you just have a time. That's pretty neat. I don't know. What do you guys think about Maelstrom? Does it deserve more attention than it's got? Either way, you should probably check it out. And halfway on the list, we've got pretty much a tried and true, arena shooter, okay? Warfork. And really, I guess we have to make a commentary about arena shooters, right? So Quick Champions died instantaneously, and that was kind of like our champion, really, our champion, the arena shooter fanatics and fans. We really need a paladin when it comes to arena shooters, and there was one called Diabolical that was coming out. I don't know what happened to that. We've had a few others, such as Reflex Arena. There's been a couple of free-to-play ones throughout the years, but it's just like, God, AAA or otherwise free-to-play, it doesn't matter. Arena shooters seem to have died, and I really think it's more of a it's both a creativity issue, though not so much in Champions. Champions was very creative, but then it's also a performance issue. You need both performance and new ideas and creativity and all that. So really, our last hope, believe it or not, because Gears 5 completely fucking failed, is going to be Halo. It's going to be the Halo remakes, and it's going to be the new Halo on PC. We might bring back the arena shooter, and for many people, that isn't quite the same as Quake or Unreal. I know some people consider like Titanfall an arena shooter, but no, it's not. But still, a fast-paced arena shooter that's super competitive in esport, that's just not gonna happen anymore until someone really grows a pair. That's sexist, actually, now that I think about it, but and really performs. But as a free-to-play game, you know, as a light, silly, or maybe even an introduction into the genre, Warfork is pretty cool, right? So yeah. Pretty much liken this game as Halo meets Portal, and kind of, you know, at a surface level, but once again, you know, just kind of ranting about arena shooters. You know, this gimmick is really cool. It doesn't completely fail in creativity. Its polish in terms of its overall performance proper. In terms of what really makes a competitive game fun, I don't think this game has it. But Splitgate, when you have a game that's just so ridiculously silly, it's really hard to understand fundamentals or what really makes these kind of games fun. You know, Halo's a little bit more straightforward and at the same time has a lot of macro abilities like vehicles and things like that are super cool, a lot of interesting physics. But they just basically, it's really a subpar shooter. With portals, which makes it fun. It's a fun party game, but I think it could have been more fun. That's really my complaint. Yeah, it's free to play, it's budget, it's made by you know, a smaller development team. I get it. Could I make a better game? Probably not. But here at a foundational level, it's a cool gimmick. But they should have had more creative weapons, more things that interacted with the portals, and I honestly think better map design. But, you know, that's just mine. I barely played Splitgate, so, you know, if you want to crucify me, do that, absolutely. But in the end, it just seems, you know, it's a fun, silly game, but sticking power. Does it have it for, again, remember, arena shooter people want super polished competitive games, but then at the same time, there are some really silly arena shooter games out there. So I love promoting them, but they often get lost. You know, it's like, should you be hyper polished? Should you be really silly? Should you have a combination of the two? It should be a combination of the two. That's why Halo did great. But yeah, Splitgate Arena Warfare fell between the cracks. Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay, number 3, big 3 here. We've got Steambird's Alliance. Steambird's Alliance is actually, I believe, some of the original creators of Realm of the Mad God wanted to kind of make that same style of game. So basically, at first glance, this might look like a Realm of the Mad God clone, and that's kind of why, because it is very much in that same genre in style, except it's going to have anthropomorphic birds versus cats. And it's going to be like steampunkish. It's going to be, you know, flying vehicles, things like that. And I think in a lot of ways that actually deters maybe some of the charm. Like Realm of the Mad God had like this really weird art style. It can run on literally any machine. It's browser based. Missed their mark with their audience, it seems. Now it's still a cool game. Like Realm of the Mad God, cool game. Steambird's Alliance, cool game. But, you know, just didn't quite land exactly. It's not flying off the shelves. I mean, I know it's free to play, but, you know. Number 2, I think, is the only game on here that has technically mixed reviews. And I think it's because it's a very polarizing game, but I'm going to put it on here because it's a game that I've owned, because it was buy to play and then it went free to play. And the people who play these style of games tend to be really toxic. So I don't know, I'm still going to throw it up here because I think a lot of my audience just really wants to see a weird new game. So Wild Terra, what kind of game is it? It's effectively like an Ultima Online experience. Now it has like that same, you know, ancientish art style, which I think is interesting. Makes it a little awkward, you know, the gameplay and everything, click to move, you know, very clunky in a lot of ways. It's pretty much like Ultima, not really modernized. But at the same time, you know, I think that's kind of interesting. I actually had a lot of fun playing some older MMOs. Recently was playing Meridian 59, and that's like the oldest graphical MMO, and I thought it was cool. You know, I thought it was charming. I've been playing a lot of older games recently as well. I'm about to play Age of Empires 2. I've been playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and I really love pixel art. I love these art styles, and I think this has some charm. It is a sandbox, open world, PvP, kind of do whatever you want, MMO, build your character the way you want. Obviously, it's got some issues, and it's not going to be for everyone, but for the niche that it aims for, I think a lot of people, they say they want games like this, but then they end up not playing them. So, Wild Terra, I'm letting you know it exists. It is, and if you want a dedicated video on it, I can actually do it, but for an MMO, it's got like almost no players. Then again, like, regardless 3D, modern or not, sandbox PvP MMOs almost never have players. So Wild Terra, it's to be expected, but it's still a tragedy to me. And number 1, we got Spell, which is a really, really new game, similar to Spellbreak, actually, and Maelstrom. Actually, a lot on this list are very, very new. But Spell is super brand new. I'm literally like, I just like a couple of weeks ago did a sponsored video for Spell, but I instantly can tell, you know, that not many people are playing it. The queue times are very long for the PvP, things like that. I'm just gonna kind of lay this out here though. Spell is a co-op and PvP game that's focused on 2v2. So it's 2 players versus the boss, or you can go and do 2 players versus another 2 players. And that's really kind of the balance of the game. As well, with the theme of 2, you also switch back and forth between 2 classes during combat, during combos. It's got this really gorgeous, like, cartoon cell shaded look to it. And I think the combat overall is very spectacular. It is a spectacle fighter, though you fight boss in boxes. And I think overall, it's really good. You know, it kind of reminds me of like maybe something like Dauntless or Monster Hunter-y, or really kind of like Soulsian, or almost like MMO. You know, you jump into a dungeon, you fight a boss, you have those MMO mechanics, dodge the circles, you know, those kind of encounters. And it is fun. You have to memorize patterns and combos and things like that, and work with your teammate. I enjoy that. And the PvP is just really glitchy. It's really glitchy. It's really laggy. The Battle Royale mode is basically unplayable, totally unbalanced, but it still could be a game that once you learn it, it could be really fun. Sadly, it doesn't have the sticking power as something like Dragonest did, especially in the East. The Spell might be more popular on other servers, but for the Western audience, Spell has mostly instantaneously died, and I think that's tragic, because it's really worth trying out and checking out, because if you really like boss fights, like in Dark Souls or something like that, or, you know, Dauntless, Spell is one of those games that actually has engaging content, at least for a little bit, so it's worth trying. But sticking power, I don't know if it's really, you know, it's really splitting itself apart, which makes it unique with PvP and PvE really evenly rhyming. But, you know, if generally you have your PvP RPG games like Spellbreak that just focus on that, and then you generally have your PvE games like Dauntless. So where does this fit? I don't know, but it's still worth at least peeling some eyeballs on for. But yeah, guys, that's it. That's the 10 best new free-to-play games that no one plays. I know that it kind of ranges between a little bit of popularity, a little bit with overall their reception, but these are the 10 that I think are at least worth checking out, depending on what genre you like. As you can see, I kind of have a spread of genres, and definitely just, you know, hopefully we had fun here as a video. I think that's a big thing. Is like, I have fun. You know, I'm trying to make my time worthwhile. I play these games. I wish I could play more of them. So hopefully you guys saw this, and maybe you want to play with me on stream or something. We could check out these games once again. I would love to actually have like a game club, or maybe once a week, every Saturday or maybe Sunday, we go and play some kind of little known game. I would love to play, what is it? Freaking Block and Load. Actually, I love Block and Load. Maybe we could jump back into Blacklight Retribution, something like that. Just, you know, just jump from game to game and just kind of play it for a day or maybe a week. You know, if it's an MMO, it'd be like an MMO book club, you know? That kind of stuff is really cool. So yeah, I like doing these videos, because making the videos is fun, talking about these games is fun, and I had fun playing these games at one time, but it just kind of, it does suck. It is a tragedy. It is something that makes me sad, that, well, you know, no one plays these games anymore, and it does suck that maybe I will never play these games again. But if you guys have never checked these games out, you should. They are an experience. And like and subscribe if you want to see more experiences that you might be able to have, because that's what I'm trying to do. Find new games and talk about things that maybe you haven't seen that perspective of. I'm weird, I'm different, and hopefully we could be all weird and different together. Keep the hype alive. My name is Skylent, and I'll see you again next time.